I'm sitting outside Stormont, where I believe another executive meeting is underway. I've actually pulled over on my way home from the Ulster Hospital, because I've been there for the last couple of days, um, with a very, very beloved family member, um, who is sadly most likely reaching the end of her life, which is a devastating experience for myself and all of my family. Um, and it has really crystallized something for me that I know is playing out on Twitter at the minute. Um, and it's affected me really personally, and I feel like I need to say something about it. As the DUP ministers in the executive are playing some bizarre game with the decision making around public policy for COVID and COVID restrictions and how to bring down community transmission, they've adopted this stance, this slogan of we have to learn to live with the virus. And every time I hear it right now, it is like a kick in the gut. We have to learn to live with the virus basically means we have to accept a high community transmission rate. That's what that means. It can't mean anything else. And when I look at the experience that my family has been on over the last week or so, to have my Nana, my beautiful, wonderful Nana, admitted to hospital, and to initially be in a situation where we were only allowed to visit her once a week. Now, as her prognosis has changed, that has also changed, and thankfully for the last couple of days, she's been able to have a family member with her around the clock, and we're so grateful for that. And the staff at the Ulster Hospital have been incredible in facilitating that for us. But there are so many elderly, very sick, frail people in that hospital sitting by themselves with one visit a week from family members. And the same goes for our care homes. And I just can't get away from the fact that the reason it has to be like that is because community transmission of COVID is so high. And we understand, as families, we understand the need for it. Nobody wants a situation where visitors could be bringing in COVID and our hospitals would be overrun with it. So we don't blame the hospitals. It's just the reality when the community transmission rate is so high. And that's what the DUP are saying they're happy to live with. That we live with this virus, that we live with vulnerable, frail old people sitting on their own, possibly facing their last weeks on this earth, with one visit a week because the community transmission rate is so high. And this from a party that claims to, have a Christian approach to their governance. Well, I'm a Christian myself, and I know that a very important biblical value is that you can judge the character of a nation by how it treats its most vulnerable and how it treats the marginalised. And the policy of we have to learn to live with this virus treats the vulnerable and treats the marginalised like their lives do not matter. Because living with the virus is fine for people who can go into their work or who want to go and get a coffee or want to go out for a meal or a pint. But what about the elderly person who has a fall and has to go into hospital? What about the young, the child with a severe health condition whose older siblings can't go to school because they could bring home a virus that could kill their brother or sister? How does living with the virus work when you actually realise that vulnerable people are not some subset of society that can be locked away? There are vulnerable people in all of our families, in all of our communities, and the DUP are advocating a policy that treats them like they are not part of us, all of us. And again, this from the party that claims Christianity as the core of their approach. I just can't get my head around it. And I hope that they know that people will not forget this. When this whole nightmare is over in the months to come, when scientists and doctors have saved us from their incompetence, people will not forget that the DUP ministers in the executive cared more about the interests of people like Bill Woolsey than they did about our elderly, our vulnerable, people with disabilities, people with health conditions. We won't forget it. And as this debate goes on in Stormont over the next 24 hours about the restrictions, I just want to actually thank the other ministers in the executive who are standing up to them. And I want to say, keep on fighting them on this. Don't let them get away with this. Don't let the DUP get away with making learning to live with the virus into public policy, because it is disgusting. It is a disgusting policy. So I'm grateful in so many ways that my nana does not have COVID, because the things that I've experienced this past week, I know for families who are losing a loved one to COVID, it is infinitely worse in terms of how much care you can give them in their last days and how much dignity and connectedness to their families they're able to have. So just please sort this out. Let's be more ambitious in what we can actually achieve for everybody in our society. And I know that there are small business owners who are struggling. I know that there are workers who have no work. It is the government's duty to provide those people with a safety net, and they failed at that. But now the DUP want to use them as a political pawn, and the Hospitality Workers Union have come out today and said, no, don't be using us in your stalling and your whatever this is. Hospitality workers want to go back to work in a safe environment, and they have a conscience. So that's something the DUP might want to try and develop. That's all from me. I usually write my tweets, but I just haven't got the energy today, so I don't even know if this made a lot of sense, but here we are.